Hi everyone, I'm Kay from Kay's Creative Home. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'd like to share how I take this 14-inch wreath form and these roses, both from Dollar Tree, and make a beautiful Valentine's wreath. Alright, now let's get started. Welcome back everyone, and welcome to my first DIY wreath video for 2021. I shared in my last video that I'm going to be making a lot more wreaths this year, and I hope you'll join me and that you'll enjoy what I have to share with you. At any time, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I'll be happy to help you as much as I can. So I'm starting with a Valentine's wreath, and I wanted to use this bouquet I found at Dollar Tree. And it came with 4 roses and 2 of the hearts, and they have glitter on them. I thought they were so cute. And it even has a little bit of white baby's breath spread in there. So I thought I would just make a wreath with them going around this frame, but soon discovered that they were going to be a little too thin. I was going to need a little more fullness. So I cut each stem of the roses. I kind of curved the bottom end, as you see, so that it'll go around the wreath and I won't have pointed edges sticking off on the sides. And then I'm also going to be sliding the leaves up, because some of the leaves are down at the bottom of the stems. So I'm sliding the leaves up so that when they get on the wreath, there will be some fullness near the roses. So I'm going to get some of those together, and then we're going to move on to the next step. So because I needed a backdrop to these roses, I decided to use this deco mesh from Dollar Tree. It comes in 5-yard spools, and this one has red and a little bit of gold metallic threads throughout. So what I'm going to do is take this mesh, wrap it around the wreath form, and I'm actually going to just tie a knot in the back, and that's going to stay there till I make my way all the way around this wreath form, and then I'll tie it to the ending piece of the deco mesh. So let's get this knot tied, and then we're going to just wrap this mesh around and around the wreath until it's completely covered. Because this mesh is thin itself, what I'm doing is kind of doubling it up. I almost kind of folded it in half or gathered it together so it's almost folded in half. And then just bunching it up, I begin to just wrap it around. And it took me a little while to get it synced up so that I'm doing it repeatedly without fighting with the mesh. But after a while, I kind of got my own little rhythm down, and I found a way to hold it in my hand so that it was kind of doubled up, and it made its way around the wreath form without too many problems. So I did use 1.5 rolls of this mesh. So you can see as I got to the end here, I just took it off of the end of the roll. It was actually stapled to the end of the roll. Grab the second roll, and on the back of the wreath just tied a knot in between the ending strand and the starting strand. And then I just continued to work my way around the wreath form once I made sure it was good and tight. Now, if you enjoy these types of tutorial videos, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and share it with others. And if you're not a member of the family, think about subscribing. I have a lot of ideas coming your way this year. A lot of different wreath ideas, and some even different ideas that I haven't seen. Not to say it doesn't exist, but some things I haven't seen yet on YouTube. So when I got to the end of the strand, I told you I just took the beginning part of the deco mesh where I started and made a knot with that ending part of the deco mesh. Tied it into a good knot, and later I'm going to just tuck it, as you see, tuck the ends of those strands up underneath the mesh so they won't be seen. Just want to make sure I got them good and tight so they won't come out. And that's how I ended that. So the next thing I do is take this red 26 gauge wire and I wrap it around the wreath, and in the back I kind of just twist it together so that it won't come loose. And I got this at Michael's years ago at the end of a Christmas sale, and I think I paid 25 cents a spool for this. And it's available at Dollar Tree also. I'm not sure if they have red. I've seen it in just the silver wire there. So I made my little twist in the back, and I actually tucked the ends of the wire into that deco mesh too, so it wouldn't stick anybody. So then I started arranging my roses, and I ended up doing 2 roses and then 1 of the red hearts. And I just did that pattern completely around the wreath. So every time I laid down some roses, I would wrap the wire around 2 or 3 times, depending on how much I felt I needed to hold it sturdy. And then I would take a heart and wrap it around. So now I had to be careful not to wrap it so tight that I actually cut into the flowers, because the stems are plastic and you don't want to actually cut into them. And then I also had to make sure that once I wrapped the wire around, the leaves were free so they wouldn't be all crumpled up underneath the wire. So I'm going to just go on around here, adding a few things at a time and wrapping the wire around a few times to hold it in place. And you see how I'm just carefully going back each time and making sure those leaves are free. As I continue, what you'll also notice is that I take the hearts, like this one. For the first one, the heart was kind of to the outside of the wreath form. This time it's more in the center, and the next time it'll probably be toward the inside of the wreath form. And that's just to give it a little bit of variation and fluctuation, so there's some movement and it won't look too rigid, have some flow to it. So I'm going to, like I said, keep just wrapping my way around here. If you've made a Valentine wreath, leave me a comment below and let me know what you made yours with. Did you use roses or hearts, or did you use deco mesh? Tell me about the wreaths you've made in the past. So I also wanted to mention, in addition to curving the bottom stem of these roses, I also bend the head of the rose up a little bit so it won't be so flat against the wreath form. So you can see how that one I just laid down is sitting up a little bit, and it kind of makes the rose twist a little bit in your hands while you're trying to get it wired on, but that's okay, because once it's wired down, you can still twist it and turn it a little bit just by moving the stem, and that'll kind of help you get it placed exactly where you want it. You can see here again with this heart how I just bent it up a little bit so it's not laying down too flat. Just gives the wreath a little more dimension. So we've worked our way around and we're coming down to the end of the florals we're adding. I'm going to stop here because I think I have enough. And as I finish wrapping this on, you'll see I'll take the stems and just keep wrapping until I get all of those stems kind of tied down, just to make sure they don't move. So now that I've finished, I'm going to flip the wreath over, being careful not to mash it. Don't put any of your hand weight on it. I cut the wire, and then I'm going to just take the wire and twist it around a piece of the wire that's already around the back of the wreath. So I just twist it in and out a few times. Kind of looks like I'm sewing it like you would do a needle and thread. That's kind of how that wire can work, like a needle. So I'm inserting it underneath a piece of wire, back and forth a few times so that it's actually twisting around that piece of wire. And that's how I'm just going to finish that off, and then I'll tuck the end of that wire inside of the deco mesh. So my next step is to make a bow for the wreath, and you will see I filled in some more of that space from about where I have my hands to the end. I thought the gap was too wide and that the bow wouldn't cover it all. So I added in, I think, 2 more roses and 1 more heart. Repeated that pattern 1 more time. So here's the ribbon I'm going to be using. I thought I'd start with this deep red, and it has the hearts on it. But then once I started unrolling it, I realized how sheer it was and thought that would be better as the top loops on the bow. So I started with the solid fabric ribbon, and that one is the red with the white hearts. Now, I did a bow before where I showed you how to keep the pattern going all in the same direction, and this one, because I won't have a tail of the bow going up, then I want all of the hearts would not be going in the same direction. So what I'm going to actually end up doing here is cutting the tail so that I can take it and actually put it back in my bow maker so that the hearts are going in the correct direction. So now from your angle, you can see the hearts are upright as they should be. And now I'm going to start on the loops of my bow. I'm doing 6 inches on each loop, and I'm going to lay it in the bow maker so that the hearts are always kind of facing out. The bottom of the hearts will be toward the center of the bow. So I'm just going to go back and forth. If you haven't seen me use the bow maker before, you put the ribbon in and come out to the 6-inch point, and that's where my finger is holding the ribbon, and then come back through the center, and then you actually twist the ribbon so that you'll get the outside facing up again. Well, the inside is actually facing up, but when you loop it over, you will end up with the outside of the ribbon facing out, like I have here. So I'm going to make a 4-loop bow using this red ribbon with the white hearts. I'm sorry, a 6-loop bow, 3 on each side, using this red ribbon with the white hearts. And then I'm going to, my tail I believe was 16 inches. And I did not quite have 16 inches when I finished, but that's okay. I just cut the other side a little shorter. And then I'm going to do the same thing again for the sheer ribbon. I'm going to cut a tail so that I can make sure my hearts are always going in the right direction. And then I'm going to make a 4-loop bow using this sheer ribbon. And then we're going to get that bow attached to the wreath. So how do you do with making bows? Are you good at it, or do you have problems with it? If you have issues or problems with making a bow, I have done a how to make a bow series, and there's a link to that in the description box below. So if you want to watch those videos and learn how to make different types of bows using different types of materials, feel free to click on that link and check out some of the videos in the playlist. And again, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with others. And if you're not a member of the family, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell so you'll be notified when I release more videos. I do have one more, at least one more Valentine wreath video coming up. I've already started that wreath, and I can't wait to share it with you. So we're almost finished. As you can see, this Dollar Tree ribbon just makes almost a perfect 6-loop bow when you use 6-inch loops. So now I'm taking a zip tie, going around the middle. I'm being careful to catch it as close to the center as possible, because remember I cut some of those tails, so I want to make sure I catch that end in the center where I put the zip tie. So now I'm going to also put a tensile stem in the back, and then that's what I'm going to use to attach the attach the bow to my wreath. So I'm going to put that through there and kind of put it at the halfway point. And then I'm going to fluff my bow a little bit, basically spreading out those 3 loops on each side of each color, or of each ribbon. And as you can see, I ended up with a, I got a little confused here because my ribbon was going the wrong direction. But what happened was, as I pulled that zip tie around it, it actually twisted it. So I just had to twist it back over, and now you can see the hearts are going the right way. So I've just fluffed out each loop of the bow a little bit, and then we'll be ready to put it on the wreath. So I thought I'd just come a little closer to the camera and continue to fluff the bow so you can see how that's done. Just kind of opening up each loop. And next I'm going to put it on the wreath and try to decide which way I would like for it to go. So with this wreath, you can see very easily that the bow could go at the bottom, or you could turn it the other way and have the bow at the top. And for some reason, I just like the bow when it's at the top. I think it, keeps the wreath within a certain size. If it's at the bottom, it kind of elongates the wreath. And if you have enough space for where you're hanging it, that's great. You could do it that way. I like to kind of condense it because I'm usually putting mine on the front door. So I want people to see it, at eye level. So I try to make sure everything is kind of combined into that one space. So what I'm doing now is just attaching the bow to the wreath using that tensile tie, and I'm just wrapping it around the entire frame of the wreath because remember I have that deco mesh going around, so I couldn't attach it to the individual wires of the wreath frame. I had to wrap that tinsel around the entire wreath form, and once I finish it I'll flip it over and show you the back. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just cut some dovetails into the bottom of these tails, and then my wreath will be complete. I hope you like it. I'm going to show you a picture of it at the end. I'm hanging on the door. So if you enjoyed it, why don't you give it a try? Grab some of these roses from Dollar Tree and a frame and some ribbon, and you can make one of your own. I think my total cost, I used 6 of the florals, 6 bunches of florals, 2 ribbons, and the frame and the wire. So what's that? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, and the deco mesh. So about $10 to $12 there for the entire wreath. All right. I thank you for spending this time with me, and I'll be talking with you again real soon.